Hi, my name is George Bainborough and I wanted to introduce my friend David Fulton. I first came across David when I was watching the television one afternoon, and the newsreader was saying that a man and his wife who were missionaries in the Gambia had been imprisoned there for 12 months with hard labour for sedition, which is trying to overthrow the government. And I said to my wife, it serves him right. He should have been sharing the gospel. So several years later, I met Dave, and I read his book, and I had to go to see him and ask him to forgive me for my attitude, which I think he did.
Yes.
You did?
I did.
Yes, good. So can you tell me, Dave, a little bit about your early life?
Okay, I was brought up in a very middle-class Christian home. I rebelled against it when I was 15. I saw Christians as boring people. And I left home and joined the army, and that was more my kind of life, and that was where I wanted to be.
Yeah. After you finished with the army, what did you do then?
I realised that I was bored with civilian life, and I started to do armed robberies.
You did armed robberies?
Armed robberies, yes.
Where were you living at the time?
I was living in Scotland, but I came down to England to do armed robberies because I didn't want to rob I didn't want to have Scottish money on me.
I see. So how long did this go on for?
It went on for several years, and when I met my ex-wife, we went to the Seychelles with ill-gotten gains. I started a chartered company there in the Seychelles and came back every year, and I concentrated on armoured cars.
You did armed robberies on armoured cars?
Correct.
And what happened? How did you get caught?
Well, for the first time, I took somebody with me. They got caught and they grassed me up.
Right, okay. So what happened then?
Well, I ended up in court when the police caught me, obviously, and I was caught with a firearm. And it was an interesting sort of situation where I climbed out the window of a house with a firearm, and there was armed police that caught me, and I had to give up my gun, and I was taken to Exeter Prison on remand.
Something special happened when you were in Exeter Prison. Tell me about that.
Yes, I met my wife.
In Exeter Prison?
In Exeter Prison. No, beg your pardon. You got it right. I got saved.
Tell me what that means and what happened.
Okay. Well, all my life I had been, I knew that what I was doing was wrong. And yet I justified it by saying that I never actually hurt an individual. It was a big company, it was the post office, or it was whatever. And when I was on remand, a woman came in, and the probation officer, and I told her that I was a Christian, because I was brought up in a Christian home. I told her that I'd backslidden, and I thought she would have believed me, but she never believed me at all. And she said, go back to your cell and think about what you've told me. And in the process of that weekend, I realised that I wasn't a Christian, and because of my background, I knew that if I wasn't a Christian, I wasn't going to heaven, I was only going to hell. So I got down on my knees and I asked Jesus into my heart.
Can you tell me how that felt? What was the result of that?
It was amazing. I sort of half expected something, lightning strikes and all this, but what happened was I had amazing peace. I realised then that I'd been living a double life. I was in the round table, I had loads of money, I was flying back and forward to the Seychelles, to UK, but it was a double life. Every time the doorbell went, I would look out first to make sure there wasn't a policeman there. And an amazing peace filled me, and it was just incredible.
So you got sentenced to 4 years in prison, and I understand that during that time you met Fiona, who's now your wife, who was a prison visitor.
Yeah, when I went to Dartmoor prison, I asked to be if I could take a service. And the chaplain said no. And then he read my record and said yes. And I asked one of the chaplains, who was a colporteur who came in regularly, if he could bring in people from outside. And he brought in a youth group from Dawlish, and one of these in the youth group was Fiona, who is now my wife. I said to God, if I'm to get married again, I want somebody like her. And he gave me the real thing.
He gave you the real thing. So you got married. When you got married eventually, you came ashore. I would say you came back to South Devon to live, and eventually I understand you went to live in the Gambia. Can you tell me how that happened?
My wife and I went for a holiday to the Gambia, and she felt more than I did that I felt I could help the people of the Gambia in a practical way. She felt we should go there to help them in a spiritual way. 2 years later, I came round to her way of thinking, and so we started selling up our property, our vehicles, the business, and the house.
Now I understand when you went over there, you actually got into the prison ministry over there, and eventually you became a major in the Gambian army as a chaplain. Is that right?
That's correct. Yes.
So, tell me what you used to do as a major in the Gambian army.
I would go round the barracks, the 7 barracks in the Gambia, up and down the length and breadth of the country, and I would go up and I'd take what they call church service. That would be either Bible class, but mostly it would be alpha courses. Right. And strangely enough, although it's a very middle class course, the Gambian soldiers loved it. And people were getting saved, coming to faith in Christ on a very regular basis.
Okay. Now I understand that Gambia is a very, very Muslim country.
Yeah.
So I understand that this would have caused a problem with the hierarchy, and hence eventually you got arrested on a trumped-up charge of sedition.
Yeah.
So you got sent to prison. Tell me, just tell me what the prison cell was like.
Okay, it was 6 foot long. It was 4 foot wide, and it was only 5 foot high. It was just concrete. There was no bed or anything like that. It was in total darkness, and they fed me through a hatch in the door at the floor, and I was given a fish head, a raw fish head, and rice once a day for 2 years.
Yeah. What did you wear in that cell?
Nothing.
So you were naked?
Yes.
Did you have any communication with any other people while you were in the cell?
It was solitary confinement.
Solitary?
Yeah.
So, did you ever come out?
Yeah, I was brought out once at least every 10 days. Sometimes it was more than that, but certainly no more than 10 days where I was tortured. Right. And they said they would stop the torture if I would sign a confession that I'd become a Muslim and renounce my faith.
Now, you're in this cell for 2 years, you're naked, in a cell for 2 years, eating a fish head and rice, and regularly tortured during that time. How did your relationship with God manifest itself in that time?
Well, I talked to God all the time, and He talked to me, which was quite amazing. Not in an audible voice, but things that I had a communication with God through the Holy Spirit in that time that I really envy that now. In fact, I talked out loud all the time to God. And one of the guards banged on the door one day and said, "Who are you talking to on there?" And I said, "I'm talking to a very good friend of mine."
I understand what you're talking about.
Yeah.
But if you're trying to explain to a non-Christian what that relationship was like and how that was, could you try and do that?
It's nothing to do with religion. Religion's a load of rules that people obey to try and work their way to heaven, I believe. But I have a very personal relationship with God. And that day in Exeter prison, when I gave my heart to the Lord, I later on gave my total life to God. So there's a slight difference there. People sometimes give their heart to the Lord and put their hand up at a church service or whatever. But then there comes a time, hopefully, when they will say, okay, God, I am yours, you are mine, and I am yours, and I will do anything for you, I would die for you. And this is the thing that I sort of try and get over to people, that I fell in love with Jesus. And that is something that you can't really explain very well. It's not a religion, it's a relationship.
Thank you. Okay. Well, Dave, you've come from a religious family. You've gone and joined the army. You have become a mercenary. You became an armed robber and ended up in prison.
Quiet life.
Quite life. Then you've gone from that to becoming a Christian, and eventually becoming a missionary in Gambia, where eventually again you return to prison. And it's a tough life. I can see you've had a tough life. What I wanted to say is that this is the book that Dave has written as a result of his experiences. He had to write this book in order to explain to his PTSD counsellor what was happening, because he couldn't talk about it. And the book has now been published. It's on the back. It says it's £10. If you want a copy of this, it's £7.50, and I will make sure that you can find it on the Facebook page. You can see that Dave's life experience and his experience with Jesus is such that an amazement to me. We can become a Christian and just live and sit back in our chairs, or we can become a Christian and we can walk out and live our relationship with Jesus. And this is what I've seen him do, and I've seen many others do as well. And it's a real blessing when this happens to you.
Yes, I'd like to say that for me, Jesus turned my life not upside down, but the right way up. Not that I haven't made mistakes, because we all make mistakes, but by God's grace, that I know where I'm going, I know who saved me, I'm excited about my life now as a Christian.
Well, thank you very much, folks, for listening to what we've had to say. Be blessed and be a blessing to others, and we'll see you again at the next episode. Thank you.